You were told that hitting a six-figure salary was the finish line, the golden ticket to a life of comfort, a detached home in the suburbs, and a retirement plan that didn't involve working at a big box retailer at 70. But in today's Canada, that six-figure dream has become a mathematical nightmare. There is a shadow fact that no one in Ottawa wants to discuss. The purchasing power of $100,000 in 2024 is equivalent to what $62,000 was just a decade ago. Yet your tax brackets haven't shifted to reflect that reality. You are being pushed into higher tax tiers while your actual standard of living slides backward into the working poor category. You feel it every morning, that low-level hum of anxiety as you check your Scotiabank app, wondering where the $3,000 you just got paid disappeared to in less than 48 hours. It's not just you, it's a systemic design. The middle class is being hollowed out, leaving a vacuum where stability used to live. We've been sold a version of Canada that no longer exists on the open market. But what is the specific mechanism that is draining your bank account before you even wake up on Monday morning? The answer starts with a partner you never asked for, who takes their cut before you can even buy a loaf of bread.
Let's talk about your silent partner, the Canada Revenue Agency. When you negotiate that high salary, you're looking at the gross number, the big, shiny figure that makes you feel successful. But the moment that direct deposit hits, the CRA has already performed a surgical extraction. In provinces like Ontario or Quebec, once you cross that $100,000 threshold, you are effectively working for the government for nearly 5 months out of the year. You are paying for a healthcare system where you can't find a family doctor, and infrastructure that is crumbling under the weight of rapid population growth. The visceral pain of seeing 30 to 40% of your labor vanish before it ever touches your pocket is the first crack in the dream. You are left with the net, a fraction of your worth, tasked with surviving in some of the most expensive cities on the planet. This tax bite is the bracket creep, a silent thief that ensures even as you get raises, your quality of life remains stagnant or declines. You're running faster on the treadmill just to stay in the same spot, breathing heavily while the government tells you the economy is robust. But if the economy is so strong, why does your fridge look so empty after a trip to the grocery store? The gap between the official narrative and your kitchen table is widening, and it's about to get much deeper.
The grocery store used to be a place of routine, but now it's a site of psychological warfare. You walk into a Loblaws or a Sobeys and see prices that defy logic. A single head of romaine lettuce for $5, a pack of chicken breasts for $25. This isn't just inflation. This is the reality of a Canadian oligopoly. In Canada, 3 families control the vast majority of what you eat, and they are reporting record profits while you're calculating if you can afford the name brand cereal this week. The emotional toll of being high income, yet having to scan for yellow 30% off stickers just to keep the grocery bill under $300 for the week is humiliating. It creates a sense of scarcity that bleeds into every other part of your life. You start to resent your neighbors, your job, and the very country you call home because the basic necessity of food has become a luxury. This is the Loblaws tax, the premium Canadians pay for living in a country that refuses to allow real competition. You work 40 hours a week at a high-level job, yet you're eating like a college student just to keep the lights on. It begs the question, if you can't afford to eat well on a professional salary, what hope is there for the rest of the country? And yet, the grocery bill is the smallest of your worries when you look at the roof over your head. Housing in Canada has transitioned from a basic human right to a speculative asset class that has outpaced the dreams of an entire generation. Whether you're in the GTA, the GVA, or even once affordable hubs like Halifax or Calgary, the story is the same. The high salary dream is crushed by the weight of a mortgage or rent that consumes 50% of your take-home pay. We are living through a housing bubble that has become the foundation of the Canadian economy, and the Bank of Canada is holding the needle. If you bought a home 5 years ago, you might be sitting on paper wealth while struggling to pay the increased interest on your variable rate. If you're a renter, you're paying off someone else's investment, while your own down payment fund is eroded by the very inflation you're trying to outrun. The feeling of never getting ahead is most visceral here. You see sold signs on houses that look like they should be condemned, priced at $1.2 million. It feels like a prank, but the debt is very real. This is the mortgage trap, a cycle where you work to pay for a house you're never in because you're always at work. The walls of your apartment or home aren't providing security. They are the bars of a financial cage. And the most terrifying part, the interest rates are just the beginning of the squeeze.
The Bank of Canada's interest rate decisions have become the heartbeat of Canadian anxiety. Every time Tiff Macklem speaks, thousands of families hold their breath, wondering if their monthly payment is about to jump another $500. This is the debt pivot, a moment in history where the cheap credit that fueled the Canadian lifestyle for 2 decades has finally run dry. We are one of the most indebted nations in the G7, not because we are profligate spenders, but because survival in Canada requires debt. You need a car to get to work because our public transit is decades behind. You need a massive mortgage because there is no other housing. You need credit cards to bridge the gap between your high salary and the high cost of existence. When interest rates rise, the trap snaps shut. The emotional pain of watching your hard-earned money go toward interest, money that provides zero value to your life, is soul-crushing. You realize that you aren't working for yourself. You are working for the big 5 banks. They are the only ones winning in this high-rate environment, posting billions in profit, while you consider skipping a dental appointment to save a few bucks. This debt servicing spiral is the hidden reason why the middle class is disappearing. We aren't losing our jobs. We are losing our margins. And without margins, there is no future. The new Canadian illusion is perhaps the most tragic chapter of this story. Canada markets itself as a land of opportunity, attracting the brightest minds from around the globe with the promise of a high-salary life. But when these doctors, engineers, and scientists arrive, they find themselves trapped in a credential gap, forced to drive Ubers or work in security while they navigate a Byzantine recertification process. They bring their life savings, only to see it evaporated by the Canadian rental market in 6 months. This isn't just a failure of policy, it's a bait and switch. These newcomers are the lifeblood of our economy, yet they are being used to prop up the real estate market and provide low-wage labor for the service sector. The shadow fact here is that Canada's GDP growth is largely driven by population growth, not productivity. We are adding more people to a dinner table that isn't getting any more food. The result is a lowering of the standard of living for everyone. The resentment that builds on both sides, the newcomer who feels lied to and the local who feels crowded out, is a deliberate distraction from the real issue, a system that prioritizes growth over stability. The high salary dream is being diluted, and the social fabric is starting to fray at the edges. Let's talk about the lifestyle creep, the psychological trap that keeps you broke even as you earn more. In Canada, status is tied to the brand of your SUV and the neighborhood you live in. We are conditioned to believe that a $100,000 salary should look a certain way. So you lease the Audi, you buy the Canada Goose parka, and you take the kids to Disney World on a credit card. You're performing wealth, while your net worth is actually negative. This is the keeping up with the Joneses syndrome. But in Canada, the Joneses are also broke. They're just better at hiding it behind a HELOC. A home equity line of credit has become the secret ATM for the Canadian middle class, allowing people to live lives they can't actually afford. But as house prices stabilize and interest rates climb, that ATM is flashing insufficient funds. The emotional crash when you realize your wealth was just a loan from the bank is devastating. You've spent years building a facade of success, only to realize you're one missed paycheck away from total collapse. This is the fragility of the Canadian dream. We have traded long-term security for short-term symbols of status, and now the bill is due. But what happens when you try to save? The system has a trap for that too. You've been told to save in your TFSA and RRSP, the holy grails of Canadian financial planning, but for many, these are misunderstood tools that lead to tax traps later in life. You put money into an RRSP to save on taxes now, but you're essentially making the government a co-owner of your retirement. When you finally go to withdraw that money at 65, the CRA will be there, waiting to take their share, potentially clawing back your OAS and GIS benefits. The TFSA is a better tool, but most Canadians use it as a glorified savings account for their next vacation, rather than an investment vehicle for long-term growth. The shadow fact is that the average Canadian's retirement plan is hope. Hope that the house continues to appreciate, hope that the CPP will be enough, and hope that healthcare remains free. But as we've seen, hope is not a financial strategy. The fear of outliving your money is a quiet desperation that keeps many Canadians awake at 3 a.m. You look at your RRSP balance and realize that after inflation and taxes, it won't even buy you a modest condo in a small town, let alone a comfortable retirement. The system is designed to keep you working as long as possible, contributing to a tax base that is increasingly strained. You are a battery in a machine that is running out of juice.
The healthcare myth is the final pillar of the Canadian identity that is currently collapsing. We take pride in not being the United States, yet we ignore the fact that our free system is failing. Wait times for specialists are measured in months or years. Emergency rooms are closing on weekends. This has created a shadow healthcare system where those with the high salary are now forced to pay for private clinics or travel to the US for procedures. If you're truly middle class, you are stuck in the middle, too rich for government subsidies, but too poor to afford private care. The emotional pain of seeing a loved one suffer while on a wait list is a reality that many Canadians are facing for the first time. It's a visceral reminder that your high salary can't buy the one thing that matters most: time. We pay some of the highest taxes in the world for a service that is increasingly unavailable when we need it. This service deficit is a hidden tax on your life. You're paying for a product you aren't receiving, and the stress of that realization is contributing to a mental health crisis that further drains your productivity. The dream of a safe, cared-for life in Canada is being replaced by a fend-for-yourself reality that feels deeply un-Canadian.
The 40-hour workweek is a relic of the past. In the modern Canadian economy, the high salary dream requires 50, 60, or 70 hours of always-on connectivity. The boundary between home and work has been erased by Slack, Teams, and the constant pressure to perform in an increasingly competitive market. This is the burnout economy. You are trading your best years, your health, and your relationships for a paycheck that is being eaten alive by the costs we've discussed. The irony is that the harder you work, the more the government takes, and the more you spend on convenience just to survive the week. You pay for Uber Eats because you're too tired to cook. You pay for a dog walker because you're never home. You pay for therapy to deal with the stress of the job that pays for the therapy. It's a closed loop of exhaustion. The shadow fact is that our productivity is actually declining because we are too burnt out to be effective. We are a nation of tired people trying to maintain an image of success. The visceral feeling of never being enough, at work or at home, is the emotional price of the Canadian dream. We are sacrificing our present for a future that looks increasingly bleak. And for what? A title on LinkedIn and a slightly better view of a construction site from your office window? The student loan ghost is the first chain placed around the necks of the Canadian middle class. We are told that education is the only way up, so we take on tens of thousands in debt before we even know who we are. For many, that high salary job is immediately hampered by a monthly loan payment that rivals a car lease. This debt delays everything: buying a home, starting a family, and investing. The emotional weight of starting your adult life in the red creates a risk-averse generation. You can't afford to start a business or take a chance on a dream because you have to service the debt. The government recently removed interest on federal loans, which is a small mercy, but the principal remains a massive burden in a high-cost environment. This is the knowledge debt, a system where you pay a premium for a seat at a table where the meal is getting smaller. You look at your degree on the wall and wonder if it was worth the price of entry. The shadow fact here is that many degrees no longer offer a return on investment that justifies the cost of living in the cities where those jobs are located. You've been educated for a world that changed while you were in the classroom.
The car payment cage is a uniquely Canadian struggle. Because our geography is vast and our transit is localized, a car isn't a luxury, it's a survival tool. But have you seen the price of a used Honda Civic lately? The high salary worker is often driving an $800 a month liability, plus insurance that is among the highest in North America, plus carbon taxed fuel that fluctuates wildly. You are essentially paying a mobility tax just to get to the job that pays for the car. The visceral frustration of sitting in 401 traffic, watching your gas gauge drop while your stress levels rise, is the Canadian experience in a nutshell. We spend hours of our lives in these metal boxes, paying for the privilege of being stuck in gridlock. This is the commuter trap. The more you earn, the further you often have to live from the city to afford a home, which increases your transportation costs, which eats your raise. It's a zero-sum game. You are trading your time and your money for the ability to move through a system that is designed to slow you down. The car, once a symbol of freedom, has become a rolling debt trap that keeps you tethered to a life of high-speed stress.
The side hustle fatigue is the latest symptom of the dying middle class. It used to be that a professional job was enough. Now, even high salary earners are looking for ways to monetize their hobbies or drive for Uber on the weekends. We've been gaslit into calling this entrepreneurship, but for most, it's just survival. The emotional toll of never being off the clock is profound. Your brain is constantly scanning for ways to extract a few more dollars from the world because your primary income isn't cutting it. This is the gigification of the professional class. When your lawyer is also your Airbnb host and your accountant is selling digital templates on Etsy, you know the economy is broken. The shadow fact is that this extra income is often taxed at your highest marginal rate, meaning you're working a second job for 50 cents on the dollar. You are exhausted, your creativity is drained, and your family life is suffering, all to stay slightly above the waterline. This isn't a hustle, it's a systemic failure. We have created a country where one job is no longer enough to support a family, no matter how many degrees you have or how hard you work. The retirement mirage is the realization that the finish line is moving further away every year. We grew up seeing our grandparents retire at 60 with a pension and a paid-off house. That world is gone. For the modern Canadian, retirement is becoming a luxury for the ultra-wealthy. The shadow fact is that the Canada Pension Plan, CPP, was never intended to be a full retirement solution. It was meant to be a safety net. But with the cost of living where it is, that net has enormous holes. Many Canadians are now looking at Freedom 85 instead of Freedom 55. The emotional pain of realizing you might never be able to stop working is a heavy burden to carry in your 30s and 40s. You see the elderly working as greeters or shelf stockers, and you realize that could be you. This fear drives a frantic, often risky investment behavior. People gamble on crypto or get-rich-quick real estate schemes because they know the math of their high salary doesn't lead to a comfortable old age. We are a nation of people who are terrified of getting old because we can't afford the cost of care or the cost of staying in our homes. The dream of a peaceful sunset is being replaced by a storm of financial uncertainty. The regional wage gap creates a cruel choice for Canadians. Stay in the city where the jobs are, but the life is unaffordable, or move to a cheaper province where the wages are lower and the services are fewer. This is the internal migration trap. We see people fleeing Ontario for Alberta, only to find that the Alberta advantage is being eroded by the same national forces of inflation and housing demand. The emotional cost of uprooting your family, leaving your support network, and starting over just to save $500 a month on rent is immense. It's a form of economic displacement within our own borders. The shadow fact is that as people move, they bring their high salary equity with them, driving up prices in the smaller towns they move to, spreading the crisis like a virus. There is nowhere left to hide. The dream of finding a cheat code by moving to a different province is becoming a myth. We are all being squeezed by the same national policies, the same global inflation, and the same lack of competition in our core industries. You can change your postal code, but you can't escape the Canadian reality. The corporate ladder illusion is the belief that the next promotion will finally solve your problems. But in Canada, the shadow fact is that the more you earn, the more you are targeted. Higher salaries come with higher expectations, more hours, and a much higher tax bracket. When you calculate the net hourly rate of a promotion, taking into account the extra hours, the extra stress, and the extra taxes, you often find you're making less per hour than you were in your previous role. This is the promotion paradox. It kills ambition. Why strive for the executive level when the marginal benefit to your actual life is so small? This leads to a quiet quitting culture among the very people who should be driving our economy forward. The visceral feeling of being stuck despite being successful is a unique form of Canadian malaise. You have the title, the office, and the salary, but you're still living paycheck to paycheck, still worried about the cost of heating your home in the winter. The ladder isn't taking you to the roof, it's just taking you to a higher floor of the same burning building.
The view is better, but the heat is just as intense.
The childcare crisis is the ultimate barrier to the middle-class dream. While the government touts $10 a day childcare, the reality on the ground is wait lists that are years long and a shortage of spaces that forces parents to make impossible choices. For many high-salary families, one parent's entire take-home pay goes toward private daycare or a nanny. This is the parenting tax, a massive financial hit during your most productive years. The emotional strain of wanting to provide for your children while also being present for them is a constant battle. You feel guilty if you work, and you feel anxious if you don't. The shadow fact is that this crisis is driving many talented women out of the workforce, further hollowing out our economic potential. We are a country that claims to value families, yet we make it financially ruinous to have one. The dream of a high salary is often sacrificed at the altar of childcare costs, leaving families wondering why they bothered to climb the ladder in the first place. You're working for the daycare, the CRA, and the bank, and what's left for your children's future? Just more debt and a system that is even more broken than the one you inherited.
The mental health cost of living in this high-pressure, low-reward environment is the invisible epidemic of Canada. Anxiety, depression, and burnout are at all-time highs, yet our high salary often doesn't cover the cost of the care we need. We are a nation of people holding it together while we crumble inside. The visceral feeling of failure, despite doing everything right, is a heavy weight. You went to school, you got the job, you pay your taxes, yet you feel like you're drowning. This is the success depression, the realization that the goalposts have been moved so far that you can no longer even see them. The shadow fact is that our economic productivity is being dragged down by a population that is too stressed to innovate. We are in a survival mode that prevents us from thinking long-term. This mental health crisis is the ultimate price of the high-salary dream. We have traded our peace of mind for a number on a screen that doesn't even buy what it used to. We are rich on paper and poor in spirit, living in a country that is beautiful on the outside, but increasingly hollow on the inside. The loop of working to pay for the stress of working is the definition of insanity. The wealthy neighbor's secret is something no one talks about at the backyard barbecue. You see the boat, the new deck, and the expensive vacations, and you feel inadequate. But the shadow fact is that most of that wealth is built on a foundation of sand. It's HELOCs, it's credit cards, and it's interest-only payments. We are living in a debt theater where everyone is pretending to be richer than they are. This creates a false standard that you feel pressured to meet. The emotional pain of not measuring up is based on a lie. When the bubble finally pops, as it must, the neighbor with the boat will be the first to lose it all. But in the meantime, the pressure to conform to this high-salary lifestyle is driving you further into the hole. We need to stop comparing our net worth to our neighbor's debt worth. The secret to survival in the new Canada is realizing that the system is rigged to reward debt and punish savings. But that is a dangerous way to live. The visceral fear of being the only one not making it is what keeps people quiet. But the truth is, almost everyone is struggling. We are a nation of secret financial disasters, waiting for a catalyst that we can't control.
The systemic design of the Canadian economy isn't an accident. It's the result of decades of policy that prioritizes stability for the few over opportunity for the many. We have a rent-seeking economy, where wealth is generated by owning things, land, monopolies, licenses, rather than by creating things. This is why your high salary feels so powerless. You are a value creator in a system that rewards value extractors. The shadow fact is that the Canadian government needs high housing prices and high immigration to keep the GDP from collapsing, even if it destroys the middle class in the process. You are being sacrificed for the sake of a balance sheet. The visceral anger you feel when you realize this is the first step towards change. We have been gaslit into thinking our struggles are personal failures, but they are actually systemic features. The high salary dream was a carrot dangled to keep you moving, but the stick is getting longer and the carrot is getting smaller. To survive, you have to stop playing their game and start playing your own. But how do you do that in a system that owns the board and the pieces?
The turning point comes when you stop trying to buy the Canadian dream and start building a Canadian reality. This means aggressive financial literacy. It means understanding that your bank is not your friend and the CRA is not your partner. It means maximizing your TFSA with assets that actually grow, not just high-interest savings. It means looking at your high salary not as a status symbol, but as raw material to be converted into freedom as quickly as possible. The emotional shift from consumer to investor is the only way out of the trap. You have to become economically sovereign in a country that wants you dependent. This requires a level of discipline that most people aren't willing to endure. It means saying no to the Audi, no to the luxury condo, and no to the lifestyle that the banks want to loan you money for. The visceral satisfaction of seeing your net worth grow while your debt shrinks is the new Canadian dream. It's a quieter, humbler dream, but it's one that actually exists. The shadow fact that will save you is this: the system can only control you as long as you are in debt. Once you own your life, the high salary finally starts to work for you.